Well, a very warm welcome. Hi, guys. My name is Kasim, and welcome to the first episode of The Anatomy of an Anomaly. Once again, I just want to take this moment really to just thank you so much for watching, and I want to take this moment to welcome you. This is the first episode of what is going to be a series of videos. And I want to actually begin off by giving you some statistics, and I want to begin off by giving you some data, which I think will set as a great foundation for what I want to talk about. And then I will actually go ahead and introduce myself and introduce the show. So the first thing that I wanted to start off by sharing with you is that in England, there are 210,000 homeless children. I'll repeat, in England, there are 210,000 homeless children. Here's another statistic for you to think about. The National Literacy, according to the National Literacy Trust, 1 in 5 adults struggle to read and write. So in England, that's about that's about 16%. So let me put that into perspective. If you have 100 friends, if you know 100 people, if there are 100 people who work in your workplace at the moment, according to the data, according to the statistics, about 20 of those friends of yours, all those people that you know, will basically struggle to read and write. Here's another statistic for you. A couple of years ago, in 2017, a study found that in the UK, 20% of people are living in poverty. Okay, and in the UK, when we look at, and this is data which is taken from the Office of National Statistics, right, which is data from the government. So I would say is a pretty good source for us to get this data, and that equates to about 4 million children growing up in poverty in the UK. Let me give you this. In 2018, according to Citizens' Advice, they basically shared and stated that about 140,000 households went without power as they could not afford to pay their top-up prepayment meters. Let me repeat that statement just so you understand the significance of what I'm saying. In 2018, that's just 2 years ago. I mean, we're not even halfway through this year, so it's basically, less than a couple of years ago. In 2018, Citizens' Advice stated that about 140,000 households in the UK went without power as they could not afford to top up their prepayment meters. So those are the statistics that I wanted to begin with. Now, I thought that I would actually go in. I'm gonna come back to those statistics in a moment, but I thought that I would introduce myself and I would introduce the show, as you're probably wondering what the show is about and why you're watching it. So my name is Kasim. And welcome to the first episode of The Anatomy of an Anomaly. For the last 6 years, have been studying what I call anomalies. And let me define that for you. I define an anomaly to be somebody or an individual who basically beats the odds, and who basically beats the statistics. And that's part of the reason why I share those statistics with you. Because I don't know, you disagree with me, agree with me, I'd love to know what your thoughts are, comment below. But the reality is, according to the data, there are a lot of people in the UK who feel as though they're a statistic. There are a lot of people in the UK who basically, the odds of them succeeding at life are almost impossible. And I find this to be quite sad, because I very strongly believe, and I've told this to my parents, I've told this to my mum, I've told this to my dad, I've told this to my friends, I've told this to everybody that I know. I have traveled all over the globe. Literally, I've traveled to basically every continent on this planet. And I can honestly tell you that if there was a country where you can thrive, where you can go after your dreams, where you can soar, where you can honestly live the most remarkable life, the UK is the best country for this. A couple of days ago, it was my birthday, and I went to see my parents. And we were talking about the fact that me and Dad were actually talking about the fact that anywhere you go around the world, the chances of you succeeding are just so hard. There is so much corruption. You can't even. I mean, I was talking to somebody, and they were telling me that in Bulgaria, whilst it's one of the most beautiful places, the police just don't support you. Like, if you want to report somebody's burgled you, the chances of the police doing anything about it is basically near and nigh impossible, right? And so what I'm saying is that if there was a chance of you succeeding anywhere in the world, a lot of people talk about the American dream, but I very much disagree with the American dream. I believe that it's really about the English dream. Because the English dream, if you live in the UK, the chances of you succeeding are just so much greater than anywhere else in the world. The obstacles that you have to overcome when you live in most countries around the world are just so difficult. But when you have an opportunity or have had an opportunity to live in the UK, the chances of you succeeding are basically really good. So my question was always, if the chances of people succeeding in the UK are so good, why then do I look at this data? Why am I looking at this and I'm reading data that the literacy rate in the UK, where you can basically do open university, where you can go to college, there is free education for young people. Why is it that the literacy rate is so bad? What's going on? We're not like in Africa, where genuinely speaking, you've got to basically spend most of your life surviving, right? The chances of you thriving in Africa are very, very difficult. So for you to even comprehend thinking about going to uni, following your dreams, it just isn't possible, because you have to start thinking about how you even got to start to pay your own meal, or if you live in India, or if you live in Nepal, right? And so for the last 6 years, I've been studying these individuals who I call anomalies. People who basically beat the statistics, people who make it out, people who start with nothing and accomplish something. Individuals who start from poverty and they become wealthy. People who are brought up in a family of dysfunction, divorce, abandonment, and they go on to become some of the best human beings that we know. People who start off via coming here as to the UK or to England or wherever it may be as immigrants, and thriving and building a great business and going on and becoming a great member of a community. I wondered, why is it that some people are able to do this? What is it? What is allowing some people to be able to start with nothing and be able to build the most remarkable lives? What is allowing some people to have gone through hell and yet they've ended up being some of the most nicest human beings you've ever met? I wanted to know. I couldn't understand it. And that led me onto this incredible path where basically for the last 6 years, I've really been studying two questions. Number one, how do you become successful? How do you become basically beat these statistics? How do you, if the statistics say that if your parents divorce, the chances of you basically getting a degree are, I don't know, 20%. Well, how do you become that 20%? How do you beat the statistics? How do you start with nothing and build something? How do you go from zero to becoming Usain Bolt, one of the fastest people in the world? How do you go from zero to being one of the wealthiest people in the UK, being the guy who invented the Dyson Hoover? How do you do it? Now, that leads me on to why you're probably listening to this or why you're watching this. Originally, I've been wanting to write a book. I've been wanting to write a book about all the things that I have learned about anomalies, but I'm still in the process of gathering information. I'm still in the process of researching this topic. So I do not actually believe that I'm ready to be able to actually produce that book yet. But I wanted to start giving you guys ideas. I wanted to start helping you. I wanted to try in some way to motivate you, to inspire you, right? I wanted in some way to be able to add some value into your life so that you can become a higher, fuller expression of who you're capable of becoming. And I was trying to figure out a way to be able to do this. And so I thought I would start this new series. And every single week, what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically set a timer for an hour. and I'm just going to basically give you what I know about becoming an anomaly. It isn't going to be formatted, so it's not going to be all polished. So if you hear me stuttering or you see me slow down or whatever it may be, you're going to have to bear with me. But I wanted to basically see if I can drop some hints into your life. I don't know, I might say something in this hour where you're like, do you know what, Kaz? I've never genuinely thought about that before. Or, do you know what? That is something really good for me to try. I've never really tried that. Or, Kaz, actually, I've never seen something like, from that perspective before. That is really essentially the goal of this series. That's what I wanted to try and do. I wanted to try and add these little nuggets into your life. And I want them to be kind of stepping stones to helping you become a higher version of yourself. Which perfectly really leads me to where I actually want to begin today off with, which is basically that one of the things that separates people who become anomalies and who beat statistics, which is that I've come to understand that basically you have to want to become an anomaly, right? You have to want to beat the statistics. You have to want to be successful. You have to want to have a life where you can thrive. And that's really where I actually want to begin. And I actually want to encourage you. I don't know where you're at in your life at the moment. You may be in a situation where you have no idea what the hell you want to do with your life. You might have been working in a job and your job isn't too bad, but deep down you know that you can be doing more than what you're doing today. Deep down, you know that there is some dream, there's a goal, there is a calling, there is this burning desire inside of you to help homeless people, people who struggle with their weight, people who've gone through dementia, people who've gone through homelessness, people who've gone through the foster care, people who, maybe your calling is to help animals, maybe your calling is to help people who struggle with learning, people who struggle with confidence. And that's actually deep down what you really wanted to do. But you have no idea how the hell you'd even ever be able to do it. And that possibility hasn't even arrived in your head that you can really, that it's even a possibility. And what I want to share with you is that people who go on to achieve these remarkable things and who become anomalies dare to dream. And that's what I want to ask you to start doing. If you desire to become an anomaly in your life, bro, I ask you to dare to dream. Dare to be stupid. Dare to be naive. Guys, it's no coincidence that the people, if you look at life and you look at people who pioneer, a pioneer is somebody who basically breaks ground. Somebody who takes something to a whole new level where it's never been before. Right? If you look at people who've pioneered, whether it be the Wright brothers or it be somebody like Usain Bolt being the fastest man, or you look at people like Steve Jobs with the Apple computer and Steve Ballmer, these individuals who pioneered, they did it when they were young. And the reason why they did it when they were young is because when you are young, one of the things that you do not yet have acquired is cynicism. You're basically not yet cynical. And so what I would share with you is, one of the things that's going to really help you really get onto this path of becoming an anomaly, of basically doing what seems impossible, of basically being the underdog in your life, is I ask you to basically become naive. I ask you to be like a child. You know, children are really interesting. I do a different show on a Sunday, and in that show I do these kind of Go workshops. And in that workshop, one of the things that I try to get people to do is to write down the things that they want in their life. And part of the reason why I get people to write things down, what they want, is because it shows people how limited they've been thinking. This exercise shows people how cynical they've become. And let me share something else with you. I remember I told you guys I'm going to jump back and forth with things because I've got so many ideas that I want to share with you. And the point is, maybe something that I share with you will be something that triggers you or that sparks you. So one of the things that I think is really important is in order to really succeed, if you study people who are successful, who started with nothing and have built something, one of the characteristics, one of the traits of these individuals is this word: they are humble. I don't know, maybe you disagree with me. If you disagree with me and you would say that people who usually start with nothing and have built something in their lives are not humble, comment below, send me a message. We'll have a conversation about it. We'll debate it. If you can find some data that can obviously be able to support that, I'd love to. But I found in reading a book every single month, every single week for the last 6 years, which is autobiography, psychology, sociology, economics. I'm trying to understand why successful people become successful. It seems to me that people who achieve success and start with nothing, people who transform their lives, are humble. Because basically, if you are not a humble person, you cannot be taught anything. And unfortunately, one of the things that I think usually happens when you started with nothing is that life has been difficult for you. You basically have learned to primarily rely on yourself. You've basically learned that basically nothing good is ever going to really happen in your life again. So why would you even dream? Why? Why would you even go out there and actually try to achieve anything? It's pointless. Clearly, people are a disappointment. Clearly, dreams do not come true, because if dreams came true, your dream of having a family, of having the perfect body, of being brought up in a loving family where there wasn't dysfunction, that dream would have become a reality, right? Wouldn't it? And so, what I would ask you to really engage in your life is, I ask you, man, just be basically naive. I remember one time I studied a guy who was a CEO of Under Armour. I can't remember the guy's name exactly, but he started the company Under Armour. And guys, if most of you know, if you are kind of 25 years and over, you will know that there are basically two big players in the kind of fitness world when it comes to fitness, clothing, trainers, that kind of stuff, which is basically who? Nike and Adidas. Those two brands basically dominate the entire sports market. And I was fascinated with this question. For the last, I would probably say, 30 years, those two companies have dominated the fitness market. Adidas and Nike have dominated the fitness market. No other company has even come close to them. So, of course, being the fact that I study anomalies, I wanted to know how the hell did this company come from nothing to now all of a sudden I see people like Messi wearing Under Armour. All the top sports people are all wearing Under Armour. The rugby players are all wearing Under Armour. I was like, what the hell's going on? And so I started studying the man who started the company. And the man said something which I'll never forget. And I'm going to paraphrase it, so you'll have to bear with me. Don't quote me exactly what I said. You can Google this exact quote. But this is what he said. He said that part of the thing that made Under Armour successful is that in the very beginning, they were naive enough to not know what was possible. Is that what he said? Yeah, that's what he said. He said, when I first started Under Armour, I was naive enough to not know what was possible. Basically, if you want to become an anomaly, if you want to soar, which is possible for you, I'm telling you, I've studied these people, you can become an anomaly in your life. You can go on and live the most remarkable life if you want to. If you want to, as I say. You may be listening to this and you're like, fuck that, Cass. I don't want to become successful. I don't want to thrive. I don't want to live a remarkable life. That's cool. You might say, I just want to live a normal life. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm saying to you that if you wanted to become an anomaly, if you want to live the kind of life where you can live such a legacy that you can, for example, the kind of legacy where you can change your entire family tree, which is possible, then here's my suggestion to you. Humble yourself. Be naive. Forget about what the world has told you is possible. Forget about what your sister has told you is possible. Forget about what your mum has told you is possible. Because, I love something that I once heard this guy called Les Brown say. Les Brown says that most, and I'm again, don't quote me on this, but I'm paraphrasing what he said. He said that most people's lives are governed by their habits, their past, and the opinions that other people have of them. He said that a lot of people never do anything differently because a lot of people have basically been convinced by people in their lives who they love and they care for that they cannot do anything more. This is it. People in your, guys, it's shocking to me. I keep telling this to people because it was one of the biggest shocks of my entire life. It was absolutely shocking for me when I first started studying people who started with nothing and built the most remarkable lives, that the people who were their biggest obstacles were their own family and their own friends. It was shocking to me when I found this out. I just didn't get it. I started reading all these autobiographies and I was like, why do people keep saying that the biggest obstacle that stopped them was their parents, their best friend, their sister, their mum? I was thinking, what? I thought the people who would want to support you the most, the people who would want you to do the best, would be the people who love you. But then I discovered something that and I put it in this statement. This is how I put it. I put it and I wrote it like this. I wrote it that when you decide to hold a mirror up at yourself, be careful because everybody else who's behind you will be able to see themselves in that mirror. Why did I come up with that? Because I heard that song that Michael Jackson wrote. Michael Jackson said that if you want to change the world, you've got to start them with the man in the mirror, right? And I thought, okay, fair enough. That sounds pretty legit. And also, basically in loads of research, I found that every single person, well, let me put it like this. Jim Rohn said that if you want things to change for you, you will have to change. If you want things to get better, you will have to get better. I read something that said this. To achieve greatness, it was said that you have to find a way to serve the many. Yeah, it was written in the Bible. That was where I found it. In the Bible, it said that if you're somebody who wanted to reach greatness, if you wanted to reach great influence, great power, you wanted to get yourself in a position where you had great resources at your disposal, you wanted to create great change in the world, it said that the way to do it is to find a way to serve the many. For service to many will lead to greatness. Now, I know that many of you are going to be listening to that statement and you're going to be like, well, Kasim, why the hell would I give to anybody else when I have nothing? Did you hear what the statement said? The statement said, find a way to serve the many. Find it. You've got to find a way. Okay? Because a lot of people, there are a lot of good people out there who say, well, Kasim, how can I give to somebody if I have nothing? The point is, you've got to find a way, right? There is this saying, which I once saw in Spider-Man. Many of you are probably familiar with this. Peter Parker's grandfather, was he his grandfather? Peter Parker's grandfather said to him, that son, with great power comes great responsibility. Let me put it another way. To whom much is given, much is required. In other words, if you want great power, great influence, you want a great life, great marriage, great health, great vitality, you want to be able to influence people, you want to be able to change the lives and the course of children's lives, it takes responsibility. And the way you got to do it is you got to find a way. Because basically, look, guys, and I guess this is really one of the big things that you've got to realize if you want to become an anomaly. No one is coming. No one's coming. Like this was, yesterday I did what I call these journal entries. I have another series called Journal Entries. And I talked about what I call inconvenient truths. I discovered in my life that there are these things called inconvenient truths. Truths that I do not want to know. I don't want to know these things. Here's an inconvenient truth. No one is coming. No one is going to save you. No one is going to... Basically, that kind of the day when you wake up one day and you win the lottery and you become a multi-millionaire, you win £200 million, it isn't coming. It might happen for one or two people, but For the other billion people, 6 billion people, it isn't going to happen. So no one's coming. And I discovered that, well, if no one's coming, if the government's basically not going to make some magical new change, and the government basically has, all throughout history, hasn't helped anyone major, if my parents are not going to change majorly and they're not going to, obviously, all of a sudden become multi-billionaires, if people who are annoying, neighbours, people who cut you off, people who don't support you, are basically not going to really change, well, my question was, well, how is my life going to change? Well, that was the day that I, of course, listened to Jim Rohn, because here was the answer. When you change. If you want things to change, you have to change. If you want things to get better, you have to get better. So now let me go back to what I said earlier on. I said that one of the key characteristics of successful people, of people who started with nothing and they've managed to build incredible lives, is these people are humble. My question is, how humble are you? Would people describe you as humble? Would people say that you're learnable? Would people say that you're coachable, you're teachable? Would people say that, do you know what, if they gave you a piece of advice, which was a really good piece of advice, that you genuinely would take the piece of advice? I don't know. It's just something for you to think about, because here's one of many of you. It was interesting. Today I was looking at clips of people who started with nothing, and one of the clips that I came across is a Karate Kid. Basically, most of you are familiar with the Karate Kid. I don't need to tell you what happens, right, in the movie. Most people who are going to listen to this, you're probably somewhere between 16 and probably 35, right? And so you've probably seen the Karate Kid. And in the Karate Kid, there is a scene which most of you will be aware, right, called the wax on, wax off. And most of you remember, what is the whole point of that wax on, wax off? The whole point of it is to humble the boy. Is to basically get the boy to realize that the simplest things are actually lead to success. It isn't, because the boy, I remember I was watching the clip of Jaden Smith where he was like, well, I want to know karate, I want to know how to do kung fu, I want to know how to do the big kicks and the high kicks and how to knock someone out and how to do the flying kick. That's what he wants to know. But the teacher's like, no, what you actually have to know is the basics. What I'm saying to you is, as a brother who wants to succeed, how humble are you? How many people have you got in your life who are coaching you, who are training you? Here's another question for you. In the last 90 days, in the last 3 months, how many books have you read on how to improve your attitude? Okay, let me put it another way. Would you agree or disagree that your attitude affects how you act? Because if the answer is, actually, Cass, to be fair, you are right, my attitude does pretty much affect the way that I act or my decision-making ability, then you must have surely have gone and got some books on how to improve your attitude. Because otherwise, essentially what you're saying is that your attitude is perfect. Here's another question. Would you agree or disagree that the kind of health, the kind of vitality that you have, the kind of energy that you have, how much energy you have, will determine your level of productivity? In other words, what you're able to do. So when you wake up in the morning, how you're feeling, how much energy you have, would it affect, do you think it would or would not affect how productive you're going to be about the day? Because if the answer to that question is, actually, Casimir, that sounds pretty legit, how much energy I have pretty much affects how productive I am in the day. There are days when I have loads of energy, and I tell you what, I get loads done. And there are days when I just feel shit, I'm hungover, I'm just like, no, give me a McDonald's, man, allow it, give me Domino's, right? Whenever I feel on those kinds of days, I'm just not very productive, I don't do very much. If you agree with that statement, and you are saying to me that in the last year, you've not even picked up a single book about how to improve your energy, that just got to tell you, that, I mean, alarm bells, brother, should be ringing off to you. Because that just gives you an indication as to your level of humbleness. Now, this actually leads me onto something else that I wanted to talk to you guys about today. So, one of the things that a lot of people ask me when it comes to this question of why do some people succeed in life and some don't, because that was my first question, right? I wanted to know, why do some people in England, we live in England, we're all kind of in the same, we all have the same political party in power at the same time, right? Yeah, some of us grew up in council housing, whatever, some of us grew up in wealthy families. But I don't understand why some people are really rich and some people are poor. I don't get it. And I began to notice that there were two characteristics that were happening that successful people possessed that I realized other people did not possess. And I started looking at myself. I started looking at my friends. I started looking at my work colleagues. I started studying people. And there are two characteristics, basically. So if anytime, basically, anyone asks me, Kasim, why do some people succeed and some don't? There are basically two characteristics that I can almost guarantee you are not present with somebody who has the ability to be successful, but is not successful. Here they are. Number one is drive. And number two is perseverance. Those two traits are pretty important, and I talk about them all the time. Before I get onto them, let me give you this piece of advice. So I've studied a lot of people who've basically had radical changes in their lives. They've gone through transformations. They've gone through metamorphosis. So people, for example, who've been like really obese and they're now living in a body that they absolutely love and are really healthy. People who've been to prison and now they're completely turned their lives around. People who've been really bad with money and have got millions of pounds in debt and now they're multi-billionaires and millionaires and very wealthy. So I've studied these kinds of people, right? And I began to notice something which I found to be quite interesting. What I began to notice about these individuals is that these individuals, how do I put this? They wanted it more. They all came, no, let me put it another way. They all came from backgrounds where they were at disadvantage and they wanted to succeed, but the map, the road, or the route that they took to getting to become successful took them the wrong way. No, I didn't explain that very well. How do I explain this? This is quite a complex topic for me to try and explain this. But basically, what I've come to realize is most people who end up going to like prison, who transform their lives, or people who end up like growing up in poverty and getting in loads of debt, but they actually or basically become like bank robbers or they become criminals. Originally, they're actually really good people at the center of who they are, right? Like, for example, I bet you know loads of people who are druggies. They take loads of drugs and they're basically wasting their life. And really, they're actually really good people at the core of who they are. It's just that the route they've taken to feeling good or the route that they've taken to becoming successful has taken them away, or a route which has basically been not what I guess what we'd call as a positive route, the light route, the good route, right? So, for example, I meet a lot of people who've been involved in criminal activity. And the reason why they've been involved in criminal activity is because they wanted to become successful, but they grew up in poverty and they grew up in dysfunction, and they never met anyone in their life who basically was like somebody who walked on the right path of life, who was a positive figure in their life, who said to them, the way actually you should do it is by being legit, is by being a good person, is by working hard. What they try to do is take the evil route, and what would be the quicker route, and what would be the you guys know what I'm basically trying to say, right? The criminal route. That route obviously still makes you get successful. It's just more dangerous. It's just not as a good a route to take, if that makes sense. And what I began to notice is that these individuals really, at the center of who they were, they're actually good people. I wanted to tell you that because there is a reason why I'm telling you this. So the two characteristics that I told you earlier on, so when people ask me, Cassim, what is the difference between some people who succeed and some people who don't? It's those two characteristics. Number one is drive, and number two is perseverance. Now let me tell you why these are important. So anyone who you study at the top of what they do, who started with nothing, has an incredible amount of drive. Incredible amount of drive. Let me tell you why this is important. In life, we change for two reasons. I'm obviously going to generalize this. Clearly, we don't just change for two reasons, but I'm going to generalize it just to put it under an umbrella. Number one, the first reason why anyone changes anything in their life is because of desperation. In other words, they have to. In other words, their wife says to them, if you do not come with me to the counselor's office, I am divorcing you. In other words, it gets to the point where the person is in the hospital, they've taken so many drugs, they've got to the point where they've basically have starved themselves so much that they've got to the point where they basically are going to die. And the doctor says to them, if you do not start eating, you are going to die. The person changes their life because they go to the doctor and the doctor says to them, if you continue smoking cigarettes, you will not be here in 5 months. Guaranteed. Right? Somebody goes to court and the court says to them, look, if you have another issue with the police and we arrest you again, next time you are going to go down for 30 years, for 15 years, for 10 years. And the person all of a sudden is like, right, I don't really have a choice but to get out of this life, right? Here's a second reason why people change. Inspiration. Inspiration is the other reason why people change anything in their life. What's inspiration look like? So you have somebody who's involved. So for example, I know a guy who was involved heavily in drugs in London. And when I talk heavy, I mean like his life was he was being hunted. He was part of a gang and was being hunted down to be killed, right? There are people who would beat him up. He'd be sat in a chicken shop. Somebody would see him. They would go and invite some of the boys and they would beat him to the point of that he was almost dead, right? And I said to him, I said, James, why did you change? Because he now lives in Reading. And I said, James, I don't understand. Why do you live here? His answer to me, Cassim, my missus got pregnant. I found out that I was having a daughter. Inspiration is one of the most powerful forces to life change. Most people don't underestimate. In fact, when people ask me why I'm so hell-bent on doing these weekly goal-setting workshops, is because most people don't understand that the reason why I'm doing it is to get people to feel inspired. Because basically, I've discovered if you're not growing, anything in life that is not growing is dying. What do you mean by that, Cass? Well, if a flower is not growing, it is dying. If your cells are not multiplying, they're actually dying, right? If the blood is not moving around your body, you are going to start dying. If a fish stops moving, it dies, right? If you leave a car there for, say you drove to Heathrow Airport and you left your car at Heathrow Airport for the next 10 years, when you come back, your car will not be the same. Why? Because a car is designed to move. For it to actually keep becoming efficient and to run as smoothly as it can, you have to keep moving the car. That's why when you haven't driven your car in like 2 months, it's hard to start the car because a car is designed to move. Anything which is not growing in life is dying. So what I'm saying to you is, I always find it funny when people say to me, I say to them, what are the goals that you have for your relationship? And they look at me like I'm some sort of weirdo. Because what they don't realize is if your relationship isn't growing, then you're trying to maintain it. Maintaining your relationship means that you're basically going backwards. Because you can only maintain something for so long. by nature, the universe, God, Allah, Jesus, whatever you want to call it, has designed everything in life so that everything perpetuates and continues moving and transforms. That's why when you have ice transforms into water, water transforms into vapor or steam. Everything transforms in life. Nothing actually ever really dies. But that's philosophical, and let's not get into that kind of stuff. But point being is that you've got to be inspired, and individuals who achieve remarkable things are usually changed because either they have to change or because they're inspired by something. What else does inspiration look like? Inspiration looks like this. Kasim, I want to become a millionaire. Why? Well, I want to change my family tree. Kasim, here's inspiration. Kasim, I want to be able to run a marathon. Why? Because I really want to be able to run a marathon. So I'm going to quit smoking, I'm going to quit drinking, and I'm going to start training. Yeah, but bro, you can't even run to the shops. What do you mean? Yeah, but I really want to see if I can do it, Cass. I'm really excited. What? Yeah, but but you're gonna get injured, man. That's okay. I don't mind getting injured. I'll obviously have to work through the injuries. The person is inspired. When you are inspired, obstacles become irrelevant. Let me repeat that statement. That's important, man. When you are inspired, obstacles become irrelevant. Let me explain. If, say, you're involved in the criminal world right now and you are expecting a child, the fact that you are going to have to leave that life behind is irrelevant. The fact that you're going to have to move out of London to a suburban area is irrelevant. The fact that you're going to have to get a proper full-time job which is going to be paying you less money when you've been earning like 10 grand every 2 weeks up in London doing your criminal activities is irrelevant. When you decide, Kasim, I want to become a millionaire. Why? Because I just want to see if I can do it. I want to show myself if I can do it. Yeah, but you're in debt now. I know, but I don't care. I'm going to start working my way through the debt. Yeah, but that's going to take you like 20 years, 30 years. I know, but that's okay. I don't care. When you are inspired, obstacles become irrelevant. And that's the other thing, actually, for those of you who might want to know this. When you hit rock bottom, basically, because that's what happens if you try and maintain things, eventually what will begin to happen is resentment will kick in, blah, 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 and it will lead you to the point where life forces you to have to change. And when people get to rock bottom, they've usually left things so late that the pain has got to the point where it's become so bad that they don't mind changing anyway. And so when people ask me, why is it that people who are successful or who started with nothing, why is it that they have this perseverance? It's because people who have been hurt already in their life, who've gone through pain, who've been betrayed, who've been abandoned, who've been through foster care, who have grown up in poverty, who've already been obese all their life, who've had problems with breathing, who've had problems with their health. These people have already suffered. They're familiar with pain. You know, I was saying to one of my boys the other day that if you look at the majority of the human race does absolutely everything it can to avoid pain. Everything. We do everything possible to avoid pain. And the ironic thing is, God, the universe, Allah, Jesus, you name it, whatever you will, has made it so that all the great things in life are on the other side of pain. It's so annoying. It is so annoying, but all the great things in life are on the other side of pain. Let me give you an example. You want to have a great marriage, I'm telling you, you are going to have to go on the other side of having awkward conversations. You're going to have to forgive somebody when you don't want to forgive. So let me give you, for example, I've been studying, for the last 3 years, I've been interviewing people who've been married for 15 years or more. And there's this thing that they keep saying whenever I interview them. They say something like, Cass, I've had to learn to just let things go. I've had to learn to not go to bed angry with him or her. And I just think, boy, if I'm pissed off at somebody, I don't even want to talk to that person. I don't even want to have that conversation. Yeah, you idiot. That's why you ain't married. That's why you don't have a 15, 20, 30, 40-year-old marriage. That's idiot. Do you know what I mean? And so, if you want to become a millionaire, on the other side of it is going to be sacrifice. Sacrifice costs. To sacrifice that. Listen to me. I recently found out, every time I go and have like a takeaway or something, I've had to basically reduce the amount of salt and sugar that I have in my life and that they put on stuff. Because I've discovered that black people and like Asians have a really, really high chance of getting diabetes, of getting problems related to blood and problems related to like high blood sugar. And so I thought, oh shit, of course we do. We have loads of curries, we put salt on everything. So I was like, oh man, I don't want to be like that. I don't want my children to basically have to be, I don't want to be inserting myself with a needle in my ass every freaking whatever. And I used to work in Subway as well. And when I was working in Subway, like people used to come in all the time. And I used to say to people, why are you having brown bread, sir? So like, why are you having just salad? And they would say, oh, Cassie, I'm going to KFC, and that's for my missus. But I used to eat loads of sugar and whatever, and now I can't. I can't eat this kind of stuff. I can't eat a Subway. And I'm thinking, boy, I don't want to be like that. Fuck that. Like that. That's just not going to work for me, man. So all of a sudden, I decided that that's where I wanted to go. But the pain and the sacrifice that I've had to make, which is basically I can't have loads of sugar now, I'm willing to do it. It's like, okay, cool. But then when I'm older, I don't have to deal with that pain, right? You want to get to the other side where you can run a marathon. On the other side of it is you're going to have to go through the pain of training and disciplining yourself and waking up and running when you don't want to run so you can get to the point where you can run that. All the great things of life are on the other side of pain. And so going back to what I was saying earlier on about what separates people who start with nothing and succeed and those who don't, is that perseverance is really, really, really important. And it comes more natural to people who've had to persevere in their life. So I always say to people that if you want to find people who have perseverance, look at homeless people. Look at people who've taken loads of drugs. Look at people who've failed a lot. People who failed a lot have to have perseverance, because when you fail, one of the failure is attached to dignity, right? And dignity means that you feel less than human. So when that happens, a lot of people want to basically commit suicide. So if somebody doesn't commit suicide and they power through and they keep going, they build that resilience, right? They build that perseverance. And the other thing as well is that drive. Going back to what I was saying earlier on, part of the reason why I do that workshop on a Saturday is to develop inspiration, is to develop drive in people, is to get people to get to the point where they're motivated, where they want it, where they are keen to get something in their life, where they're driven to achieve, where they're driven to want to achieve, like to go after something. I cannot tell you guys the amount of people who I know who can do the most remarkable things. I cannot tell you. But the only reason why they don't do it is because they just don't have the drive. They have no reasons to do it. Why would they? Why would I, Kasim, go and start a business and leave my really good job? Because, dude, your business is going to be able to help out. You're going to be able to help out dogs. You're going to be able to hire people who can work for you. There are people out there who are looking for a job with somebody like you who has the same ethics as you. But you won't even start the company, which means that you're becoming... I talk about what I call a generational thief. If you die and you have not done the thing that instinctively you know you should have been doing, the thing that you know deep down you were meant to do, then you are a generational thief. because you basically stolen from the previous generation your gift. Sorry, from the next generation your gifts. You've stolen from them something which could have been unique to them. But again, that's my personal opinion. But really, just as we draw to a close, I really just, this week, I would just encourage you, man, to really look at your life and just decide to become an anomaly. Make the decision that you are going to basically not be a statistic. Take it upon yourself. You can do this, man. I'm telling you, you can do this. I've studied so many people who've done it. And if other people have done it, then it is possible for you to do it. I'm telling you, if you want to start a business in, I don't know, in making bottles, I'm telling you that it is possible for you to do it. You can do this, right? If you are currently in loads of debt and nobody knows about it, and you want to beat the statistic, and you're sick and tired of basically being living paycheck to paycheck, and you're sick of and tired of getting to a point in your life where you have no money, you're basically working to pay off debt, right? And you're sick of it. For example, I read the other day I was doing a show and there was a survey that said from think tank that said that 7 out of 10 people live paycheck to paycheck in the UK. 7 out of 10 people. So if you know 10 people, 7 of them are living paycheck to paycheck. If you're sick of that shit, if you are sick and you don't want to be a statistic, if you don't want to be one of the 7 out of 10 people who is the people who lives paycheck to paycheck, and you want to be part of the 3, you can do it. Make the decision to do it. Decide, take it upon yourself. As we're on this, one of the other things that I wanted to add, which is something that anomalies have, is anomalies usually when people who start with nothing and they go on to achieve great things, one of the things that I've noticed allows them to be able to do this is that their vision is so big, they usually basically go from one extreme to the other. So they usually go from being in debt to becoming a multimillionaire, to being obese to being really healthy. So what I'm saying to you is, whatever it is that is your opposite, it needs to be extreme. Because if it's not extreme, there's going to be a word or a phrase that's going to appear in your vocabulary. The phrase is, it's not worth it. It won't be worth it, man. It is not going to be worth it to put yourself through pain, to sacrifice, to dare to dream and you could be disappointed, to go through the fact that you're going to have to change, to acquire skills, to have to work double jobs, to live on beans and rice. You're not going to do that if it's not worth it. So it has to be something which is the opposite, and it has to be something extreme. If it is just, I tell people about what I call the 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. I don't know if you've heard me, well, you probably haven't heard me say this, but I have this philosophy, what I call the 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. So basically what I've discovered in life is I've discovered that in life we don't get what we actually want, we get just below what we actually want. So for example, if your goal is to get a girl who's a 10, very rarely will you ever get a girl who's a 10. What you usually get is a girl who's maybe a 7, 8, 9? Some people are lucky and they get a 10. If you are a guy and you're looking for a girl who's about average, which is about 5, you usually don't get a 5, right? You will usually get a girl who's probably about a 2 or 3 or 4, right? If you are going for a job that pays 50,000, you usually don't get a job that pays 50,000. You usually get a job that pays about 38, 39 maybe, right? If your goal is to earn 30k this year, usually you won't earn 30k. You probably earn about 27, 28, something like that. What I'm saying to you is, rarely do you get what you actually want. You get a little bit below. So my point to people is, whatever it is that you want, whatever it is that you really want to achieve, you've got to aim for something more. So, for example, for me, many of you will know that one of my goals is to become a millionaire. So my goal isn't to achieve £1 million, because I know if I go for £1 million, I'm probably not going to get £1 million, right? So my goal is dramatically much higher than that, right? I'm in the multi-millionaire. I want to become a multi-millionaire, right? That level of thinking gives me loads of room. I don't even know how to give you a metaphor for this, but it's a bit like, if you're going to bake a cake, you want to try and have more flour than the flour that you think you need. Because if you have more flour than you think you need, if something goes wrong, if the dough is a little bit looser, or you need to add a bit more flour, you can do it. Where it becomes a problem is where you don't have enough and then you're struggling. And that's what most people do. When most people don't have a goal or a vision or a dream which is really compelling, or where they can basically say something like, oh, Cass, I'll tell you what, imagine that. Imagine if I was a millionaire. Imagine if I was to be married for 40 years, right? Imagine if I had that level of love and connection with somebody, right? Imagine if I could find someone who would be that loving, that committed to me. Can you imagine that? Right? That's where you want to get to. But to get to that, you need to be reaching higher, right? If you want, it's funny for me, because people who are married for like 50, 60 years, those people, it's almost become like almost a standard. They expect it to be like, for them to die together, right? If you have it in your head that maybe it might work out, or maybe you might be married for 20 years, a lot of people there are these what I call shadow beliefs. And I tell people, you've got to be very careful of shadow beliefs, because let me give you a shadow belief. So there are a lot of people who would say, I'm going to church because I believe in God and it's a good thing to go to church. But really their shadow belief is, if I go to church, I'm going to be perceived to be a good person. I'm going to be perceived like I'm a role model, like I'm a good person. I want people to admire me. I want people to say that I actually go to church, and wow. That's actually what they're wanting, but they're pretending, and they're using the intention, and they're trying to portray the intention that they're going to church because they believe in God. Does that make sense what I mean? Right? Some people will give to charity not because it is the center of who they are and they believe it, and they could not live a life where they didn't give to charity. Their shadow belief is actually, if I give to charity, then people will think I'm a good person. Right? Then people will think better of me. And you've got to be very careful with those shadow beliefs. They're very, very subtle. Most of the time you don't even notice them. Right? And that's why when it comes to success and motivation and succeeding, I say to people, you've got to really be very careful with the shadow beliefs of the people who you've grown up around you. Because earlier on I mentioned that a lot of people don't end up succeeding because of what people say to them. Right? The biggest obstacle most people have to face on becoming an anomaly is their own family and friends. Because your own family knows you. They know what you're good at. If for the last 10 years of your dating life, you've been on and off with different girls, you've not sustained a relationship for more than freaking a year, your family have basically stereotyped you, right? They know what you're like. So the chances of you now saying that you all of a sudden have found this amazing girl and you want to get to marry her and she's the one, they ain't going to believe you. It's bullshit. Why should they believe you? They're not going to believe you, right? And don't expect them to believe you, because nothing that you've done over the last 10 years is indicated any of what you're now suggesting. That's why I say to people, the first message I ever said when it comes to motivation or any of these videos was, do not expect other people to support your dream. That was the first video I ever did. I said, do not expect other people to support their dream, your dream, because it's not theirs, it's yours. So if you tell people your dream and they're like, well, that's shit, well, their opinion is none of your business, because you are asking for some advice and feedback. That doesn't mean you stop. Do you know what I mean? And so just to close and to finish today off, what I really want to encourage you to really think about this week is, have you ever made a decision to become an anomaly in an area of your life? Is there something where you're like, Cass, the odds would be against me, man. I'd be an underdog. I couldn't do that. Are you crazy? Cass, hey, Cass, come on, man. That's for like those different types of people. That's for like black people. That's for like, no, man, no. I know I like rap, but you want me to get into rapping? Yeah, but that's for like, I know I like rap and I've done it side to side and I've done it like kind of messing around. But no, that's for like people like Eminem. He's been doing it since he was like 5 years of age. Yeah, Casim, I know I love football and I would love to like play in the World Cup, but yeah, that football is for like, like people like Ronaldo. I mean, look at Messi. Those people are just naturally good. They come from like the right countries. So if you were to decide to do this, you would be an anomaly. The odds would be against you. But hey, how exciting would it be? How exciting would it be to try it? Can you imagine if you actually did it? What would your life look like? Imagine you became a millionaire in the next 20 years. We know that it's possible because people have done it. In fact, people have become a millionaire in like 2-3 years. So you asking for 20 years isn't really that outrageous. Imagine if you, in your relationship, made the commitment that you were going to last for 50. That's your goal, 50 years. You're willing to change. You're willing to adapt. You're going to go and read books. You're going to go get mentored. You are going to see if you can actually do it. Let's see. At the moment, you're in debt. You've been gambling, Sky Bet, you've been betting on the football. But you've now decided, you know what? You're going to get to the point where you have £1,000 in your bank account. I mean, it's going to take you like 3-4 years to do it. But let's see if it's possible. I don't know. That is where I wanted to leave this week off. I hope that in today's episode I've maybe said something that has sparked something in you. Maybe I've inspired you and you thought, actually, do you know what, Cass? Fuck it. I am going to try and run a marathon. You know what? Fuck it. I am going to try to become a millionaire. Do you know what? Fuck it. I am going to go out there and I'm going to write that book. I know I'm not good at writing. I get it. I know, you know what, Cass? I've always wanted to become a manager. I've always wanted to try and do it. But I've never really considered myself to be the confident person. But you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to try and do it. I'm going to go tomorrow and speak to my manager. I'm going to ask my manager, what do I have to do to become a manager? Where would I have to change? Do I need to work extra hours? What would I need to learn? How long would it take me? I'm going to do it, Cass. I'm actually going to... Do you know what, Cass? I've been trying to quit smoking for basically the last 6 years. From today, I will never smoke again. I'm gonna... that's it now. I'm done. I've made a commitment. Fuck about cutting down. Forget about these patches or whatever you call them. No. From today, I will no longer smoke. That is it. I'm done. You know, Cass, I've always been a shy person. I've always, I could never put my ideas forward. I've always been the shy, I have made a decision after watching your video today that I will never be shy again. Not like, obviously, clearly, we all have shyness and we go through moments of shyness, but I'm going to actually try to be confident. I'm going to work on this shit. I'm going to try and get to the point where maybe I can have like the kind of confidence where I'm not arrogant, but I have like a silent confidence in me, where I believe in... Do you know what, guys? I have, honestly, my whole life, I've never believed in myself. I'm going to try and actually get to the point where I believe in myself more than other people believe me, where I can motivate myself more than other people can motivate me. That right there is what I hope has added value to you. I want to take this opportunity to thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. If you're watching this on YouTube, and you know what, the usual stuff, guys, like, subscribe, isn't that what people say? Like, subscribe to my channel for more of this kind of stuff. Share it with somebody if you think this will be useful for them. Cut it, paste it, send it, I don't know. You know all the various things, guys. I don't want to sell to you. I just want to help you. And I just want to kind of point you in the right direction if I can. And I will see you same time next week. Bye for now. Cheers.